Hello, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Minds on Guard, where we're learning how to guard our minds against all of the manipulative tactics that are employed here in the 21st century media landscape. We've been learning about thought control, manipulation, behavior modification, and all kinds of different ways that gets foisted onto us throughout our days. Tonight, we're going to continue our discussion on the topic of the digital environment in which we live here in the 21st century. This is an exciting and thought-provoking topic which deals with some really large issues and frontiers of human experience that we who engage with the digital world are collectively learning about and evolving with in real time. Because this environment is so new and is developing so rapidly, it's important that we take time to think deeply about the various effects that the digital world has on our lives, both as individuals and as a society. Being that this channel is called Minds on Guard, we're going to be focused on all of the ways that all this new technology and innovation plays on our thoughts and changes our behavior. I'm personally concerned about this as I've seen firsthand the kinds of harm that unchecked and unexamined use of the new technologies of social media and digital connectivity impose on my own mind. We're all in this new world together, and the fight for freedom and the right to retain personal control over our daily lives is ramping up quickly. So, let's keep digging and try to find more tools with which we can fight back against those who wish to herd us into a prison, one where we have no freedom to think and reason, but are feeding off of and destroying each other while the controllers profit from the life we give away to their designs. Previously, we spoke about the actual designs of the most prominent social media platforms. Baked into how TikTok, Instagram, and others function is a sophisticated network of highly manipulative features which can be found at all levels of every app's user interface. Recall that these designs intentionally target our subconscious and activate our dopamine centers in the brain. By targeting the subconscious emotional drivers and then utilizing a response-reward design to keep users plugged into the tech, the designers have developed a model that's based on the same concepts found in casinos, like the slot machines. You pull the thing and it spins a lot and the thing flashes and you got lights and noise all over the place, and it keeps you hooked, all for that next high, that next rush of the magic of the maybe that we spoke about in the last video. The targeted designs operate in order to keep the most people addicted to the product as possible, thus maximizing the user numbers and therefore profits. This is what happens at both the psychological and chemical levels when we engage with social media. We are manipulated through emotional reactivity and then kept engaged so that these companies can harvest massive amounts of data, which they can then sell for astronomical profits. We learned last week that the levels of dopamine released in the brain during social media use are roughly the same levels as when people recreationally use cocaine. It's about a 400% spike. And what this means is that every piece of engagement, be it likes or follows or retweets, views, anything that can be utilized in the design of the platform to provide a kind of reward, has the potential for activating the chemicals in our brain that pull us out of reality and into a kind of euphoric stupor that is incredibly difficult to break free from. The analogy of a drug addict is appropriate, and while that may seem extreme, we can see similarities when we compare the two behaviors. There's a real problem with the cultural acceptance of behavior that actively does harm to our brains and ability to remain grounded in reality and maintain concentration, thought that is rational and has a logical line that can be tracked and verified. We don't condone the habitual use of hard drugs, and rightly so. So why then do we accept the habitual, compulsive behavior that comes with social media and the digital devices? To examine this, we need to take a look at the psychology of narcissism. There are many ways to view and understand narcissism. We've spoken about this issue in some basic terms before, but it's time to get a little deeper and deal with the real effects of how this plays out in our lives. The label of narcissism, or describing someone as a narcissist, is really all too common in today's world, and as such, the definition has been distorted and really kind of watered down in many people's minds, or it's been inflated to uses and meanings that are not intended, that actually do kind of cause a lot of harm. It's important to recognize that narcissism is most properly viewed on a spectrum, meaning that it is present to some degree in most, if not all, people, and some will exhibit much more severe manifestations of the traits which are used to classify or qualify a narcissist. Often, people associate this behavior with someone who seems to be really full of themselves or is overtly self-centered. And while this is an appropriate understanding of certain traits that fall into the narcissistic spectrum, it doesn't really cover the whole picture. According to Psychology Today, narcissism does not necessarily represent a surplus of self-esteem or of insecurity. More accurately, it encompasses a hunger for appreciation or admiration, a desire to be the center of attention, and an expectation of special treatment reflecting perceived higher status. Also, narcissism is characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, a lack of empathy for others, a need for excessive admiration, and the belief that one is unique and deserving of special treatment. So, these types of behavior are indicative of narcissistic traits, and as such, we should be on the lookout for these in our own thinking and our actions. It's important to recognize that while some of these may be present, that does not mean a person is a diagnosable narcissist or should be classified or characterized as having what's known as narcissistic personality disorder. That is a very much more severe case and is really only diagnosable through clinical observation and evaluation. What should be looked for, however, is to what degree any of these thought patterns and behaviors are present in our own lives, and then we should do what we can to heal them, bringing them into alignment with truth and reality. The most troubling of these, and really pertinent to our discussion on social media, is seen in the grandiose sense of self-importance, the lack of empathy, and the belief that one is unique and deserving of special treatment. It's through these behavioral avenues, these thought patterns, that the designers of social media platforms manipulate us and get us addicted to the narcissistic supply that the tech provides. What do I mean by narcissistic supply? This is a crucial point of the psychology to understand when it comes to the operative function of social media with respect to its addictive nature and the ways that it controls us. Again, from Psychology Today, the term narcissistic supply originates in the psychoanalytic theory that concerns the essential needs of babies and toddlers to maintain their mental and emotional equilibrium. Narcissists' deficient self and inner resources make them dependent on other people to affirm their impaired self-esteem and fragile ego. They only validate themselves as reflected in the eyes of others. Despite their facade of confidence, boasting, and self-flattery, they crave attention, respect, and constant admiration, and actually fear that they're undesirable. Returning to the work of Sigmund Freud, he noted that narcissists extract their supply from other people mainly by two pathways: aggression and ingratiation. To be admired and to get their supply, narcissists employ various strategies, including impression management. They ingratiate themselves using their charm, emotional intelligence, bragging, seduction, and manipulation. Receiving attention and admiration boosts their weak self and lack of self-esteem. They manipulate and try to control what others think in order to feel better about themselves, making narcissists dependent on recognition from others. If you refuse to provide what they want and need, they resort to their secondary means, aggression with narcissistic abuse. They go on the offensive attack and they belittle you. Narcissists exclusively use others in order to get their supply, thus maintaining their emotional equilibrium. Because their sense of self is determined by what others think of them, narcissists use relationships for self-enhancement. Everyone must feed them. The main types of narcissistic supply are as follows: accomplishments and professional success, even if by cheating or using unethical means; financial gain by any means; status symbols, such as a big home, a golden toilet, or expensive car; 5-star dining in hotels; acquaintances with celebrities, public figures, and other high-status people and institutions, be they real or perceived locally. That can happen at any level of society. Wearing designer labels and expensive accessories and jewelry; winning anything in life, being perceived as a winner; using alcohol, drugs, and other addictive substances like even sex. Provoking arguments is another way that they get their supply. The emotional reactions and the chaos that is contained within those kinds of provocations. Receiving awards, attention in the news or social media, and being admired and loved by romantic partners, or having a mate that is desired by others, such as a trophy wife or influential or successful spouse, and then expressions of gratitude. Now, that's just a short list of the ways that narcissists get their supplies, but how many of these do you recognize as being highly present and active in social and mainstream media these days? In my estimation, every single one of these means of supply is being exerted on others at the highest degrees possible when engaging with social media. As such, it's inherent to the design of these apps that they supply our more narcissistic traits and create further issues within our cognitive capacity. The dopamine centers are connecting intimately with that emotional equilibrium that is achieved through the supply, and this exacerbates a cyclical effect where we become programmed to extract the supply we desire in order to feel safe in our environment. Due to the fact that this technology has come online within the millennial generation, we've been shown to be the most generally narcissistic generation that has ever lived. The data is still being gathered on Gen Z and the newest generation, Gen Alpha, but think for a moment, if millennials are the worst we have ever seen, and this technology has only become more and more addictive, more wide-reaching, and far more accepted, they're using it in schools now, what should we expect to see with respect to the behaviors of the younger generations as they grow into adulthood? The most troubling aspect of this is that a person who is reliant on the narcissistic supply that we've been discussing is the most easily programmed person on the planet. Think about it. If a controlling entity wishes to direct your thinking and your behavior to adopt and accept a paradigm that they've designed, all they have to do is manipulate you through the supply, spike your dopamine, and boom, they have you hooked on whatever program they wish to run. It's how cult leaders indoctrinate their followers. What we must challenge ourselves to do is to work on identifying the ways in which we exhibit the traits of narcissism and do all that we can to set good, healthy boundaries, internal and external, in order to reverse the need for this infantile supply that we're inundated with throughout our daily lives. Through honesty and the submission to the truth of our own defective thinking, we can begin to build up skills and thinking systems which align with reality, and then begin to plant our feet in foundations that are concrete and provide the sure footing to live our lives free from the manipulations and addictions that hunt us at all hours of the day. For those of you watching who live in health and are free from these issues, then praise God for his provision of truth and love. I hope that you can use your skills to help others see what they need. And for those of us, like myself, who are fighting the battle to heal and shake off this programming, I pray you continue to grow and to submit to the truth. To do this well, we must always stay diligent and vigilant with our minds on guard.